In a quiet village surrounded by emerald green fields and the distant murmur of rivers, an old farmer named Shamlal lived a simple but meaningful life. His days revolved around the land he had inherited from his father, a vast stretch of fertile soil that had been the family's lifeblood for generations. Shamlal's hands were rough, his face withered, but his heart was full. He knew every inch of his land, the smell of the soil after rain, the way the crops swayed in the wind, and the joy of seeing life sprout from seeds. Shamlal's only son, Aniket, had chosen a different path. Years ago, Aniket had left the village for the city to study and pursue a career. Over time, he became successful, living in a high rise apartment surrounded by the conveniences of modern life. Visits to the village became rare, and Shamlal often felt a pang of sadness when he thought of how distant his son had grown from his roots. One summer, Aniket decided to visit his father. He arrived in the village dressed in crisp clothes, with his phone constantly buzzing and his hands soft and unblemished. As he stepped out of the car, he looked around with a mix of nostalgia and discomfort. Shyamlal greeted him warmly, his eyes lighting up at the sight of his son. Son, welcome home, Shyamlal said, his voice rich with affection. Thank you, Papa, Aniket replied, hugging him briefly. It feels good to be back, but it's so quiet here. I am not used to it anymore. Shyamlal smiled knowingly. Maybe the quiet is exactly what you need. The next morning, Shyamlal woke Aniket at the crack of dawn. Get up, son. Today you will join me in the fields. Aniket groaned, pulling the blanket over his head. Papa, I am on vacation. Can't I just rest? Shyamlal chuckled, his voice teasing. Rest will feel sweeter after you have worked with the soil. Come on, get up. Reluctantly, Aniket got dressed and followed his father to the fields. The sun was just rising, casting a golden glow over the landscape. Birds chirped in the trees, and the scent of fresh earth filled the air. Shyamlal handed Aniket a shovel and pointed to a patch of dry soil. Start digging here, he said simply. Aniket hesitated. Why? What are we doing? You will see, Shyamlal replied, a mysterious smile playing on his lips. As Aniket began to dig, the sun climbed higher and the work grew harder. Sweat trickled down his face and his arms ached from the unfamiliar exertion. Shyamlal worked beside him, his movements steady and efficient. Despite his age, he seemed tireless. Papa, Aniket said after a while, leaning on the shovel for support. Why do you still work so hard? This city offers everything: comfort, convenience, even wealth. Why cling to this life? Shyamlal paused, resting his hands on the shovel. Because this soil sings a song. Son, a song of life, struggle, and gratitude. You can't hear it through the noise of the city. But if you listen closely, the soil has much to teach. Aniket didn't fully understand, but he didn't argue. For the next few days, he followed his father's routine, learning to sow seeds, irrigate the fields, and harvest crops. His hands grew calloused, his muscles stronger. Slowly, he began to notice the subtle beauty around him, the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves, the way the earth smelled after the first rain, and the satisfaction of seeing life sprout from the soil. One evening, as they rested under an ancient mango tree, Shyamlal said, "There's something else I want to show you. It's a family secret." Intrigued, Aniket followed his father to the edge of the field, where the soil was softer. Shyamlal handed him the shovel again. "Dig here." Aniket frowned. "What's here, Papa?" Shyamlal didn't answer, his smile enigmatic. "You will see." As Aniket dug, his heart raced with curiosity. Finally, the shovel hit something solid. He brushed away the dirt to reveal a small, rusted metal box. Shyamlal knelt beside him, opening the box with reverence. Inside was a stack of old, yellowed papers and a small cloth pouch. "What's this?" Aniket asked, his voice hushed with wonder. "These," Shyamlal said, holding up the papers, "are the deeds to this land, but not just ours, they include the surrounding fields too. Your grandfather, despite being poor, secretly bought them to protect the village from greedy landowners. He entrusted this secret to me, and now I pass it to you." Aniket's eyes widened. "Why didn't you ever tell me this before?" "Because I needed you to understand the value of this land first," Shyamlal said. "It's not just property, it's our legacy. Your grandfather believed that the land was sacred, not something to be sold or exploited. It's our duty to protect it." "And the pouch?" Aniket asked, opening it to reveal few glittering gold coins. "Your grandfather kept these as a last resort, but he always said the real wealth is in the soil. It feeds us, sustains us, and teaches us patience and humility. Never forget that, son." For the first time, Aniket felt deep connection to the land and his family's heritage. The soil wasn't just dirt, it was life itself, carrying the stories and sacrifices of generations. When Aniket returned to the city, he carried a small pouch of soil from the field. It sat on his desk as a reminder of his roots. Over time, he found ways to protect the village land from encroaching developers and supported sustainable farming initiatives. He began visiting the village more often, not out of obligation, but out of love and respect for the lessons it had taught him. The song of the soil, once faint and distant, now played clearly in his heart. It connected him to his father, his heritage, and the enduring rhythm of the earth. Aniket realized that while the city could offer convenience and success, it was the soil that gave life its true meaning. The lesson he vowed never to forget.